Engaging governments require a supportive and enabling approach. What I will do today in a very brief moment that I have is to give you 4 reasons why it has become imperative to take this approach. Governments have become much more politically assertive and are becoming quite sensitive with the kinds as well as the nature of international assistance that they receive. The reason for this is very simple. Governments are beginning to own and be responsible for development. There are alternative development options that are open to them. And in fact, their citizens demand results. What this means for the head of program is that you need to support country-led processes. You have to support those processes not only because it is consistent with WFP's transition from food aid to food assistance, but also because it is what governments want. The second reason why you need to change your approach is that governments are much more complex organizations. They have multiple mandates: political, security, economic, social mandates. There are multi-layered institutional arrangements, either branches of governments or various levels of government, ministries, agencies, local governments. What this means, particularly because they have variable decision-making processes that may be informal or formal, is that first of all, they have many objectives, they have many interests, and there are many actors. Oftentimes, these objectives, the interests, and the various actors do compete. Government has a responsibility to balance all of this. Now, what it means also is that as a head of program, you need to understand how the government is structured, how the government conducts its business, and you also need to be aware of the behaviors and the norms of key players. These key players may have formal roles in government, or they may typically be members of the kitchen cabinet that meet with the president to play chess in the evening, or sometimes go and play golf with the president. So you have to be aware of these competing objectives, sometimes competing interests, as well as different players that juggle for the president's attention. The third reason or fact or reality is that governments operate in an ever-changing environment. This environment often creates opportunities for engagement, primarily because it oftentimes results in opportunities. It oftentimes results in changes in priorities. As the head of program, you need to be able to, first of all, broaden your contacts beyond the host ministry or agency to others like the Ministry of Finance. It might be a Ministry of Agriculture. It could even be a commission, or making even contact with someone who is a key player and may be referred to as a policy entrepreneur outside of formal processes. But equally important, particularly when you are advocating change, is that you need to be aware of what I would call the political, the administrative, as well as the fiscal feasibility of the change that you are trying to advocate. The last reason, and these are not quite exhaustive, but the last reason you need a changed approach is that governments, because of increased ownership and responsibility for development, are now focusing on technical assistance from their international partners. What this means is that whatsoever you are advocating, be it a policy reform or a program, your recommendation has to be evidence-based, and secondly, it must be a customized solution, customized to fit the context. What you therefore need is an understanding of the situation of the country context, not only the politics, not only the economic development challenges and constraints, but knowing a little bit of the history and culture of the people, of the societies, is very helpful, not only for the dialogues that you will be engaged in, but also for the type of programming that you are likely to implement. This is very, very essential. Let me just leave a few thoughts with you, particularly as you carry out the rest of your training. First, I want you to remember that a new context requires that international organizations, those who work for those organizations, should support country-led processes. That is the only way you can become effective. The second is that you need to be able to recognize and take advantage of what I would call windows of opportunity. But to do this, you have to be ready. You have to get your homework done. You have to understand the context. You have to understand the environment in which you work. The third fact is that getting out the door with a traditional toolbox is not going to open any further doors for you. To establish your own credibility and to be able to maintain that credibility, you need to be able, as I said before, to customize your solutions. Those will require support from other partners, which means that you need to build political capital, but you also need to build coalitions with others who are supportive of whatsoever innovation you are trying to bring about. In the end, I would suggest that you talk less, be less prescriptive, listen more, but most of all, stay the course. It is usually a very long process, but at the end, if you persist, you are likely to see your change being accepted and implemented.